So again, I'm Shelley King, and I'm the Dementia Care Educator with the Alzheimer Society of PEI. And today we are going to be presenting on falls prevention and dementia. I just want to thank you all for coming today. And please, if you have any questions, to put them in the chat pod, and we will definitely answer them before we're done today. So our goals for the half hour that we have together today are to learn ways to prevent falls. Some of these ways will include some home safety tips that maybe some of them may be new to you, some physical activity suggestions and goals, understanding and knowing the vision loss that happens in dementia as it progresses, and some awareness around medications and the connection to falls risk and taking many different medications. So I like to keep this slide in each of our presentations just as a reminder that dementia is an umbrella term that describes a wide range of symptoms. It's not a diagnosis itself. And just a reminder that there are over 100 types of dementia. Some of the more common ones we keep on this slide here, but there's so many forms and mixed forms of dementia. So just to keep that in mind as we go through this afternoon. So before we get into this, we're just going to do a poll just to see where you're at.
Okay. So the question is, what percentage of the population in PEI will be over age 65 by 2031? Perfect. Thank you. You guys were fast with that. I'll end the poll and share the results. So 10% feel that, or sorry, 20% feel that 10%. So one person thinks 10%, one has indicated 18%, and 3 are suggesting that 26% of islanders will be over the age of 65 by 2031, which is only 9 years away, which is a little frightening.
So it's actually 26% of the population will be over the age of 65, which is a large percentage of the population when you think about it per capita. So we're going to look at some of the impacts of falls in Canada as a whole here. So falls are the leading cause of injury of Canadians age 65 and older, and they're costing our healthcare system $2 billion every year. 50% of falls causing hospitalization happen in the home, and 95% of falls result in hip fractures in the elderly population. Deaths due to falls have risen quite a bit over the last couple of decades, and the Atlantic population actually has the highest percentage of people 65 and older. So just some interesting statistics to share with you as we get into it today. So people living with dementia have an annual falls risk of 60 to 80%. So that means that up to 80% of people living with dementia have a fall every year. This is in part because of many of the symptoms that are associated with having dementia increase the falls risk quite significantly. Dementia acts as an agent for many possible risk factors, including a lack of insight, mobility deficits, visual spatial deficits, and behavioral issues. And we're going to look further into these as we go through the slides, as well as the disease severity. So functional changes with dementia include memory, executive function, and visual spatial. So when we look at the memory, we're looking at short-term memory and increased difficulty with understanding and remembering multi-step tasks. So we need to remember that keeping things simpler will help ensure that someone's being able to follow through with a task safely and effectively. With the executive function, we're looking at impulsiveness, decreased insight into problem solving, and the visual spatial. So persons living with dementia have difficulty perceiving 3 dimensions. So we look into the depth perception and no longer being able to maybe safely navigate stairs. All of these factors contribute to an increase of falls. So the first thing we're going to look at are the vision changes and dementia. And we have another presentation that's specifically focused on the sensory and the vision changes that happen in dementia and how much that affects the person as the disease progresses. Vision is impacted by dementia in four main ways: the peripheral vision, depth perception, object recognition, and time to focus. When we talk about object recognition, examples might be not remembering what a walker is used for, or using one item for a different use, such as a pen for a toothbrush. Time to focus. It takes them longer to see something or someone, and we look at these vision changes specifically related to falls. When you lose the ability to have depth perception, the chances, like I mentioned, of missing a step or taking a step up too high increases. Misjudging when you're sitting on the edge of the bed and missing the bed or the toilet. Vision loss increases as the disease progresses, and in the mid and later stages, you end up with monocular vision. So if you held your hands to your head and did the monocular and binocular, it gives you that visual of just how much vision loss occurs. So looking at some steps into preventing falls. Staying physically active with a focus on mobility, strength, and balance exercises are the key here. Aiming for 30 minutes most days of the week. And again, remembering how vision is impacted and keeping safety in mind with all activities. Knowing the side effects to medications and what to watch for. And we're going to look further into that, into the connection with medications and falls in a moment. Getting enough sleep and standing slowly. Orthostatic hypotension is a common in adults and in older adults specifically, which is just a fancy term for when your blood pressure quickly drops if you stand too quickly from a sitting or lying position. So remembering to move slowly and to take your time to give your blood pressure that chance to stabilize. And if you have an assistive device, being sure to use it. Are there any questions before I go any further? Okay. So the other thing that's very important, no matter what environment the person's living is ensuring adequate lighting. So when possible, also providing visual cues such as pictures of the task. Decreasing clutter inside and outside to have a clear path for ambulation is important. Throw rugs are probably one of the most common trip hazards that we see in people's homes. As homey as rugs and throw rugs make things seem, the throw rugs, as the corners curl, really provide the perfect opportunity for a fall, as well as cords going across the floor and not staying against the walls. So making sure those things are cleaned up. Having information and reminders in a common place. So this might be different for each person, but could include a calendar, a paper on the table. It might be a picture of the task where the task is completed. So having the picture reminder or the visual reminder of a walker or a cane to help someone from forgetting, from remembering that mobility device. Keeping things by the bed, such as a phone or water, to avoid needing to leave the bed in the dark in the night. Having a night light by the bed is a helpful tool to have, and keeping noise at a minimum. Distractions make it easier for a person living with dementia to forget an important step, such as remembering their walker. So we have another poll question here for you.
All right. So which of the following medications increase your risk of falls the most? Is it painkillers, sleeping pills, polypharmacy, or diuretics? And of all the things that Shelley's talked about today, from my understanding, speaking with geriatricians, medications have the biggest impact on falls, or the biggest contributor, I should say. But which of these do you think contributes the most? And I'm just going to end the poll, and I'm going to share the results. Okay, so one person thinks it's painkillers, 2 believe sleeping pills, nobody said polypharmacy, and 2 said diuretics. Now, sometimes because we work in the business, we end up saying things that we're using words that might not be familiar. So polypharmacy means when there are multiple medications interacting. And Shelley used the word ambulation earlier, and that kind of means like moving around. I think, Shelley, you might be able to give a better description, but walking and getting around is what ambulation means.
Yes,
Took
thank
me a
you.
while to learn that one. I was like, what does that mean? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now and let Shelley kind of discuss these results with you a bit.
All right. So as it turns out, it was the fancy word polypharmacy that was the answer that none of us ended up picking. It was an interesting cross the board answer for that one. And really, in some ways, everyone's right with their answer because polypharmacy is a term used for simultaneous use of many medications for one or more conditions. And typically, polypharmacy would be considered taking 5 or more medications at one time. And that is what significantly increases the risks of falls because of the side effects to the medications. So like I say, many of you are right. Just we all picked the medications, and that's what we came up with the answer. So there are a number of commonly used medications that increase the risk of falls. The medications, I just want to say, are very important to take, and by no means am I saying not to take medications. It's just being aware of the risks that are associated with the medications so that you can help mitigate and make the risk as low as possible. Sometimes through talking with your doctor or pharmacist, they can help come up with some great ideas too, as far as time of day for the medication to be taken. The first one we'll look at is diuretics. So that's a term commonly referred to as a water pill used to help your body get rid of salt and water through your kidneys. It's often prescribed to treat high blood pressure, but can be used for other conditions as well. And one of the main side effects with diuretics is the increased need to urinate. So with the increased need to urinate comes the increased risk to falls, especially if it's frequently getting up and down to go to the washroom. This sometimes comes on quickly. And so when you're hurrying to go to the washroom, your increased risk for falls is there as well. So you might forget your walker, rushing, you could trip over something. And then often with diuretics, people take those in the morning so that the medication has a time to do its work during the day so that you're not having to go to the washroom quite so much in the evening hours. Sleeping pills help you sleep better. However, the side effects include dizziness and drowsiness, which can lead to falls. Antipsychotics are often used as a mood stabilizer. Traditionally, they were used with patients with schizophrenia, but they're also used for the mood disorders as well. So side effects include drowsiness, dizziness, and blurred vision. Antiepileptics are used to treat epilepsy and to control seizures. Most common side effects, again, are dizziness, drowsiness, and mental slowing. You can see a pattern here. Antidepressants treat depression and again have a common side effect of dizziness, fatigue. Opiate painkillers are used to relieve pain, and sedation, dizziness, again, are the most common side effects. So if you have a person who is, over the age of 65 that is living with dementia and might also have some heart problems or some sleeping issues, and so they're taking 3 or 4 of these medications, you can see how the risk of falls would significantly increase. And so what we need to just be aware of this and put as many steps in place to help prevent a fall that we can. So making sure that the lighting is good. that there's no clutter on the floor, that they're close to the bathroom, that they have what they need. Any questions about this? Because we covered a lot of information just on one slide in a short time. And again, I just want to say, by no means am I saying not to take medications. It's like I say, it's just to be aware of the side effects, and taking a few of these medications can really change the ability for someone to be able to safely move around.
Just a quick comment too, Shelley. One of the things that's really helpful to do is every so often ask your pharmacist or your doctor to do a medication review, and they will just do an evaluation. Sometimes in regular care, that step gets forgotten, although to be honest, they're getting a lot better at doing it because of the impact of polypharmacy. But it's okay to ask for it as well, especially if the person is taking, like you say, 5 or more medications. I know this both through the work that I've done over the years, but also because it happened to my grandmother when she ended up in the hospital, and she had a lot of adverse events happening. And this was going on for about a week or two, and nobody had done a medication review. And it was as simple as having a physician look and adjust dosages. And then everything that was happening with her conditions came around back to good again. And again, it was a polypharmacy issue in that case. So don't be shy. The pharmacists are open to doing that, to making sure that there's nothing that has like severe interactions. And then it would be a physician who would be looking at dosages and things like that.
Yeah, that's very helpful. And when I was doing some research into just how common polypharmacy is, I found a number of different statistics, but the average, I would say, would be about half of all people over the age of 65 experience polypharmacy at some time. So that's a pretty high statistic. Okay, moving on to strength and balance, and just the importance of keeping our bodies as physically strong as we can, especially when it comes to the people living with dementia and their increased risks. So maintaining and improving muscle strength and the ability to balance is crucial in reducing the risk. So participating in physical exercise helps provide an endless amount of positive outcomes. And I've listed some of those on the slide there. And you can see how that just improves the overall health of a person. So always keeping safety in mind and moving your body as much as you can to help reduce your risks. So some of the keys to fall prevention, so exercise, and not just for falls prevention, but for all of other aspects of your health. Ensuring good nutrition and hydration, getting enough sleep, that'll help with the amount of energy and alertness you have when you're moving around. Medication management, which we spoke of, and doing, at least a yearly review with your physician or your pharmacy. Wearing good fitting, sturdy shoes, so important, making sure that they can tie up and that they fit properly to help prevent tripping hazards. Remembering and using mobility device, whether that be a cane or a walker, whatever it may be, making sure you're using it even for short distances. I would have to say that over the years, some of the most common falls I saw were someone thinking that just those few steps from the bed to the bathroom, they didn't need their walker, but they really did. Maintaining eyeglasses and hearing aids. So making sure that the senses are all taken care of to help prevent falls, and proper lighting. And this is at all times of the day and in all environments, making sure that the lighting is adequate for easy sight for where you're navigating. So just to summarize some of today's information, falls are the #1 reason for injury-related death, hospitalization, and emergency department visits in older adults in Canada. 20 to 30% of falls are preventable, and that goes into all of the different aspects we spoke about today. Cognitive impairment increases your risk of a fall by at least 2 to 3 times of that someone living without a cognitive impairment. And a person living with dementia experiences vision loss, so binocular and monocular vision, and the vision loss just gets worse as the disease progresses. So just always keeping that in mind with daily tasks. So I flipped across too fast there, but I just want to thank you for coming and listening today to some of the ways that we can all help prevent a fall from happening. I'll open it up if there happens to be any questions.
So again, you're welcome to type your question in the chat pod or unmute yourself to ask Shelley a question. In closing, I'll say that in terms of exercise, it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, one of the best exercises is walking. And to that point, we are launching a new program for persons living with dementia, and they can come with a care partner like their husband or wife or a son or daughter or a friend. And those are going to be weekly walking groups in a dementia-friendly, dementia-safe environment. So we are in the process right now of designing the program, and we'll be launching it really soon, but please reach out if that's of interest. We really want to provide a lot more opportunities for people living with the disease to get out and stay active. The walking groups are one of those. And then we'll also have some social activities that we'll be starting that'll be a little more focused on things like music, arts and crafts, discussions, reminiscing groups, those kinds of things. So again, just please watch our social media or reach out if you're interested in attending those programs. We will also have one more Lunch and Learn series happening on June 23rd, and that will be about communication and behavior changes in dementia. So more towards the moderate stage of illness, when you can see changes in personality, you can see a bit of a slowing down in terms of processing of language and some of the other behavioral changes that can emerge for some people. And then also dementia care training is for healthcare providers, and there's kind of a bit of a loose schedule up there, more information on our website. We always like to put a slide in about what it is that we do here and some of our core services. So we do a lot of one-on-one counseling with families, and that's really, having families ask questions, and we help walk through every stage of the illness and provide resources and help to plan for the future. We do family consultations as well. So sometimes it's nice if the spouse and the children want to come together to discuss, the care situation and what might be needed, or just get on the same page about what's happening with the family member. We also have our volunteer companion program that will send a trained volunteer into the home to do 2 hours of companionship with the person living with the disease, so that the caregiver gets to have a time of respite and take a break. And as well as our Wellness Connect and Care, that is the walking groups and the social activities that I was mentioning that's launching right now. And just want to say a huge thank you to anyone who participated in our Walk for Alzheimer's this year. It was a really beautiful experience. We had 4 in-person walks. The tally isn't finished yet, but we had a great year in terms of the funds raised through sponsorship and through donations, and we are extremely grateful for that. These funds help us to provide the programs and services across the island. There's still time to donate if you haven't and you'd like to. And there's also some lovely pictures up on our Facebook we just posted today from the walk across the island at the different locations across the island. So once again, on behalf of our team here, I just want to thank you very much for joining us. And Shelley and I can stick around for a few minutes if there's any last minute questions.